Another pleasure to enter into your home, and thank you for allowing us. You are watching MCTV on Camera Mosaic with your host Jean-Claude Zeno, and my guest today is my friend, the man who get into public office without going the right way about it. Steve Tompkins is in the house with us. It is a pleasure to have
Hey,
you.
as always, thank you, my friend.
Listen, it's a
Yes.
tough way to learn it.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've done it the other way around, and this is your first time actually running for public office.
First time running for office, yeah. You know, I've worked for Andrea Cabral's campaign. I worked for Elizabeth Warren's campaign, but it's a lot different when you're the guy taking the shots.
I hear you. I hear you.
You know.
I remember the guy used to say he started complaining to Barack Obama. Barack says, "Listen, get on with it." Okay?
Yeah, right.
So how has it been so far?
You know what? I'll tell you what. It's been an extraordinary experience for a couple of reasons. One, I've met so many good people that I wouldn't have met. I've had an opportunity to speak with folks like yours on a number of occasions about issues that are really important to people that we serve. Plus, it's given me an opportunity to travel throughout Suffolk County and go to neighborhoods that I would have never had a reason to visit. And so you really do get to learn a lot about civic activity, you know. And so to that point, it's very enjoyable. The thing that I long for, though, is that more people, particularly our young people of color, get involved in civic activity and civic life, because it really is rewarding when you find out what makes community go, you know. So to that end, I've enjoyed it, but that's a message that I'm going to carry with me and try to impart to others.
I don't mean to drag you into the mud with this one, but however, I need to ask you if you ever heard anything about it and the process of closing the Caribbean Carnival due to the last incident.
Yeah, well, I've read that in the newspaper. Here's the thing, though, about first of all, it's a great event. That said, every year something happens of a negative nature. Now, I remember leading up to this one, I had some conversations with folks, or I wouldn't really call them conversations, but folks mentioned to me, they would say, so I wonder what's going to happen this year. And sure enough, something really tragic happened. And so when you have something like that happens year in and year out, people begin to reevaluate what's going on there. Now, I don't think it's something that should end, frankly. Now, should there be a year off? Should there be a pause? I don't know, you know. But I think that aside from some of the real tragic incidences that have happened, and I do not mean to make light of that, it is such a wonderful event, you know, where people come out and really enjoy the day. Actually, the entire weekend. I believe it starts on Friday and it concludes on Sunday.
Right, and unfortunately, it happens on Jubei, which was. But anyhow, I just don't see how do you destroy an entire activity
Yeah.
for the sake of an incident.
You know what? At the end of the day, I would be surprised if that happened. I mean, Shirley Shillingsford and the folks that she works with are pretty vocal. They're also very civically engaged, and they've done a lot of great things for the city. And so over time, I think that I would hope that they've built up enough capital within the city government to say, we understand that there's been that problem, but we can't stop.
Now, beside the Caribbean community carrying on this, and I understand that the mayor also plays a big role because in terms of the services for that day and so on and so forth, but it's become a trademark of Boston.
Yeah.
Shouldn't the city do a little bit more in terms of really giving it the structure that it needs so that it can improve instead of seeing it going down the drain?
Well, you know, it's interesting that you asked that, because I spent some time with Willie Gross, the new superintendent-in-chief, a couple of days before the event actually happened. And we were talking about the public safety angle of the event and what the police were doing to try to ensure that nothing tragic happened, and something still did. And so Willie is a man of integrity. I don't believe he chooses his words lightly. I don't think that he would have said to me that they were really going to be on top of this if they really hadn't made plans to be. So clearly you can't be everywhere, you know. I still maintain that the cachet that the carnival has year in and year out should garner, as I say, the right for them to continue to do this. And I believe that if the city tried to stop next year's event, there would be a hue and cry from a lot of people.
It will, because it's something that expand beyond the boundaries of. But anyhow, let's go back to the Suffolk County Sheriff.
Okay.
Parents are often concerned, not understanding the different departments. When their kids get into trouble, what really happened if they go here or if they go there, and so on and so forth. But with your department, how would you, if you had an opportunity to really communicate with the minority audience, who doesn't seem to understand the work, the responsibility, and the preventions they could do also for the kids not to fall at this?
So it's easy for me to sit here and say what a parent should do, and I am a parent also. I have 2 teenage children. But the thing that I often say to parents is that you should know your kids' friends. You should know who your kids are associating with. Not to say that they have bad friends, but things happen. And so if you know who they are associating with, and that you have an opportunity to really gauge whether or not your child should associate with this person or that person. But then I'll take it a step further. I have found in conversation with a number of different ethnic groups, folks who may be first generation here, the parents may not understand the cultural dynamics of how the city works or how kids interact with one another here, you see. And so there's a language barrier sometimes. And so the child will tell the parent one thing while they're actually doing something different. And so what I've said to parents is that if at all possible, if you think that there is something untoward going on with your child, then you should probably seek out some sort of professional intervention. You know, not to say that anything is bad, but get in front of the curve before something possibly bad could happen. I think that's one way to make sure that your kids don't fall into the criminal justice system, because as both you and I know, once they do, they're in a world of hurt. And it's really hard to get out of the criminal justice system. You get a query, you want to get money to go to school or get housing or do other things, it's incredible. Get a job, it's incredibly tough.
What kind of a support system is being put forth for the amount of folks that you have under your control in there?
So it's two-pronged. First, we send officers into the schools. We started with the high schools and now we've stepped down to the middle schools. We send officers into the schools to communicate with kids about public safety, bullying, being safe on the internet. But principally, when I created the program in 2005, it's called the Choice Program. I created it because I wanted a vehicle where an adult in uniform would have an interaction with a child when that child was not in trouble, you see? And that's how it began. And from there, a lot of things have come out of that. What we found is that in certain schools, they no longer offered civics because of budgetary cutbacks. And so we asked if we could actually create a civics program, a curriculum, to talk to kids about civics, because in the absence of civics, you don't really have a clear understanding of community, how community works with government. So that's what we're trying to do to get in front of the curve. On the back side, folks that are with us, we have 3 tracks of education. We have the adult literacy track that leads to the GED, and we push everybody towards the GED if they don't have one. We have special ed for those that need special ed. And then we have vocational education. Now, Jean-Claude, on average, my population has a 5th or 6th grade reading and math proficiency level. The vast majority of these folks are not going to go to college. That said, we have a program that we created in 2005 called the Common Ground Institute, where we teach vocational, we have vocational offerings: carpentry, landscaping, custodial maintenance, painting, printing. 2 years ago, I began an urban farm program. This fall, we're going to start a culinary arts program. I say this to say, if you know how to cook or clean or build or paint or print, you have an employable skill. And in this program, we also offer the Occupational and Safety Hazards Card, the OSHA card, which you need to get on federally funded construction sites, you see. And so what we're trying to do is meet people where they're at Not where we think they should be, where we want them to be. We have to meet them where they're at, you see. And so what we try to do is give folks the tools or offer them the tools that's going to help them improve their station in life. I'll take it one step further. What we have said to folks as they're transitioning out is, let us stay in touch with you. You stay in touch with us. We need a continuum of care that goes beyond the time that they've spent with us. So if a guy or a lady's about to do something that could possibly get them sent back to jail, give us a call, you know. And I have a full cadre of social workers. Give us a call. We don't have jurisdiction over that individual, but we can match them up with a social service agency that could potentially help them so that if they don't do something that could get them sent back to jail.
Beside the city of Boston, I believe that you extend to
Revere, Chelsea, and Winthrop in Boston. Yeah, approximately 730,000 residents.
You have the mayor of Revere who endorsed you, Don Rizzo.
Yes.
Mayor of Boston, Marty Walsh.
Yes.
U.S. Congressional Stephen Lynch.
Yes.
U.S. Congressman Michael Capuano.
Yes.
Out of the four, you have more endorsement than anybody else. And I think tonight you will deliver certainly the latest one.
Well, there's two. The list that you read from does not also have United States Senator Elizabeth Warren endorsed us a couple of weeks ago, and we were endorsed today by Governor Deval Patrick, you see.
In the minds of most people, they'll say that it's sufficient for you to win this.
Yeah, but we're running as the underdog,
Okay.
you know, because I'm a first-time candidate, you see, and I can't take anything for granted. You know, I mean, endorsements are great, you know, and we've got a number of unions that have also endorsed us. In fact, for the first time ever, my unions, the corrections officers union, endorsed me or endorsed my candidacy. That has never happened in the history of the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. But I can't rest on my laurels because we really do have serious work to do, and we have to be, again, a committed community partner, which means we have to be seen in the communities. We can't wait for everything to just come to us. As you know, I run the Nashville Street Jail and the Suffolk County House of Correction, not the Suffolk County House of Warehousing. And what I mean by that is we can no longer afford to just warehouse people. It costs too much money. $46,000 annually to incarcerate, and you're also destroying the family unit, or the family unit is being destroyed when mom or dad is taken away from that family unit. So we have to be proactive, and we have to go to the people and say, look, there's a different way to do things. We want to be helpful.
I know folks are looking on your shoulders, desperate with the way situations are, and you're certainly going to bring a breath of life to the ethnic communities who are suffering so much. Have you ever encountered any situation that is culturally, I think that the words that I'm looking for, challenge?
Sure.
How do you overcome that?
Well, you know, and I'll go back to what I was talking about when we talked about kids and how kids get in trouble. And when you have first-generation immigrants that have come to this country, culturally, what we call normal or the norms is not understood by folks that may come from another land. In their land, they may do it a little bit differently. I'll give you a case in point. So while I've been campaigning, I've run into more than a few people, more than I would like, who have mentioned to me that when they come to the Suffolk County House of Correction to see their loved ones, that they've had some difficulty with my officers, you know, downstairs. And that the officers really do have a job to do. And the public is a tough entity to deal with. That said, there's already enough stress in that person that's coming to a jail to see their loved one. They do not need to have more stress heaped upon them by someone that's supposed to be helping them. So when I say culturally, there's a way that we have to comport ourselves and do our business, but there's also a way that a person is looking to be respected. And so what I have to do is sit with my folks to say, we have to be more accountable to the people that we serve. So when you ask, how do we deal with it? I'm not one that believes in letting things fester. As soon as I hear about a problem, culturally or otherwise, I like to roll up our sleeves and get right on it, because if you don't, then it could potentially just get way out of control.
Very good. Well, you know where we stand with you as far as you're running for these positions, and we're certainly looking forward to September 9th to see you making it through. And I'm so glad that you're not taken for granted. But will you promise us that you will not be the normal politicians? Since it's your first time experimenting, and it says once you get in there, you become.
So let me tell you what I hear a lot.
Okay.
What I hear a lot from not only people that work for me, but people out in the lands and out in the communities that I visit. They say that you're real, right? And I thought about that, and I talked to people about that, and I said, what are you talking about? I'm real. And I don't have, whatever political speak is, I don't express myself in that way because I didn't come up through a political vein. I came up through communications. I came up through marketing and public relations. And so my lens is a little bit different, maybe a little bit wider than what the traditional law enforcement lens would be. And so I don't know how to be any other way than able to communicate with people and to listen to people, which is crucially important. And so what I'm saying, I'm taking a long time to say, is that I will always be accountable to the people that we serve because that's really important. Now let me close by saying this. If you take the black community and the Latino community in the Commonwealth, it's 17.7% of the entire Commonwealth. Now, in my facility, that same demographic is north of 65%. Now, I clearly am concerned about all folks that are with us and trying to help them better their station in life. But when the rubber hits the road, I have an affinity with that 65%. They look like me. They look like you. And I understand that there are three things that generally lead to not necessarily jail, but a tough road to hoe. And one is poverty, two is a fractured home, and three is an inept education system. And I didn't grow up in an impoverished environment, but I did grow up in the projects in Harlem. I do come from a broken home. My mother and father divorced when I was 2. My mother did have a very serious time with alcohol dependency. My schooling, for the most part, was pretty good. So I understand the difficulties and the stressors that people that have been sentenced to our facility. I understand some of what they're going through, but I also understand what their loved ones are going through because I went through some of those things, not only with my mom, but people in my family that have gone to jail, people in my family that have died from drug abuse, you see. So what I try to do is bring a kind of more holistic look at what's going on. I'm not a legislator. I'm a law enforcement professional. And so what I do on a day-to-day basis is a lot different. And I think what legislators do is great, don't get me wrong, but I won't fall into that political speak or that political vacuum.
You have a last moment, a last chance to convince a few of our listening audience who are surely paying attention from your first meeting in here together with us on your first interview. This happens to be your last one before September 9th.
Yeah.
And they're going to be hearing it at least, I would say, a couple times.
Okay.
What is your final sales speech to them out there that they can feel that is real?
Yes. Well, here's the situation. 85% of my population is there because of some involvement with drugs. 42% present with some form of mental illness, from the most passive to the most aggressive. As I mentioned, we have far too many black and brown boys and girls incarcerated. This nation incarcerates, in fact, far too many of its citizens. It costs $46,000 to incarcerate. It costs $13,000 to $20,000 to educate. I'm a firm proponent of education instead of incarceration. I've been at the department for 14 years, all in a management position. I started in 2005 as the director of communications. In 2002. In 2005, I was promoted to the chief of external affairs, which allowed me to work with a wide array of community organizations outside the department. And in 2013, I was promoted to the sheriff. I understand the job. I understand the needs of the community. I humbly ask for your vote. I would love to be returned to my perch to continue the work that we do with keeping our boys and girls out of jail and helping those that have been incarcerated turn their lives around, make their families whole, and go back to those families and stay out of jail.
Out buying that, folks. So if I can buy that, you can certainly buy that as well. Very well polished, and I think for the past few days on the road, it really gets you going to deliver this even much better. Now, on another note, let's close with this. There are quite a few people running.
Yes.
Governor,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah.
You also have Treasurer.
Yes.
You have Auditor. You have Secretary of State is actually not in it. But however, you also have Attorney Generals.
Right.
And
Exactly.
some of them that you have a strong bond with, and
Yeah.
you have even endorsed.
Yes.
I've seen you in campaign. I was there together with Tolman,
Yes.
visiting the site where the latest incident of the carnival happened.
Yes.
And so on and so forth. But give us your list.
For governor, I'm with Steve Grossman.
Steve Grossman.
For Attorney General, I'm with Warren Tolman. For Treasurer, I'm with Deb Goldberg. The auditor is a very good friend of mine. I haven't endorsed the auditor, Suzanne Bump. I would, if asked. I think she's extraordinary. Lieutenant Governor, I have stayed out of that race. I know all three of those gentlemen. They're friends of mine, and that's just a tough one for me to get into, so I've stayed out of that race.
Very good. I think out of all of them, who has come in here? We definitely had Mr. Tolman, and here we have Dave Goldberg, so that means we had two
Yeah.
out of your four. Well, we wish them the best of luck because September night is coming.
Yeah.
What would you have to say to the folks who have the reluctancy consistently? It's an election, same old,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out there. What message do you have for them?
Well, here's the message that I have for folks. You get the government that you deserve. And what I mean by that is if you don't participate in voting, if you do not participate in civic activity, it's really tough to be taken seriously when you complain about the services that you're not receiving. And what I mean by that is that you have to get out, you have to vote. You get the government you deserve. And so if you don't vote, you're going to get folks who aren't going to be listening to you and they're not going to be accountable to you. Conversely, if you do vote, you stand a better chance of getting the public servants that you require to be in office. And if you don't, then vote them out of office.
I'm going to give you a simple, I think if you said you're entering into 2005 to 2006, within the time frame, it was probably a year later, 2007. I carried a campaign together with Mass Vote, and I was working with the Haitian community at Hafi at the time. Get some young people involved and really start knocking on doors and improving the livelihood of Mattapan at the time. We increased the voting by about 13% within the years of election.
Right.
So I do believe that folks really get the government that they deserve. And our T-shirt used to say, "Don't complain if you don't vote."
There it is. That's it. That's it. Don't complain.